U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is expected to arrive in Israel on Tuesday during a multi-country diplomatic mission across the Middle East. President Biden and other U.S. officials believe that the death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, the mastermind behind the October 7th terrorist attack, could open up new avenues for diplomacy. However, the U.S.'s role in ending the conflict may be in question following the leak of a top-secret military document detailing Israeli preparations for a potential retaliatory strike against Iran. And then also over the weekend, there was an attempted drone strike on the residence of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And by the way, this is what he had to say in response.
Well, 2 days ago, we took out Yahya Sinwar, the terrorist mastermind whose goons beheaded our men, raped our women, burnt babies alive. We took him out, and we're continuing our battle with Iran's other terrorist proxies. We're going to win this war.
So will something deter you?
No.
He was asked if that drone strike would deter him. You heard his answer. Join me now from Israel to provide insight is Carolyn Glick, senior contributing editor at the Jewish News Syndicate and host of the Carolyn Glick Show on JNS. Carolyn, thank you for taking time out of the holiday to join us. Happy Sukkot.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to join you as always.
So just today, Israel intercepted 5 drones in the area of the Mediterranean Sea before they crossed into Israeli territory. Things are not calming down. They seem to be heating up.
Oh, yes, very much so. Yesterday, Israel hit 30 targets that were all financial and economic centers for Hezbollah. They have a bank, because why wouldn't you have a terrorist organization that swallows a country that doesn't take over the financial system through its own bank? And so Israel destroyed 30 out of, I think, 50 branches of this bank last night, and it's continuing to operate both on the ground and in the air and from sea to push Hezbollah back. Amos Hochstein, the administration's go-to guy for negotiations with Hezbollah strawmen, is back in Beirut today trying to reach some sort of a diplomatic accord. Israel has given him new conditions for reaching some sort of a negotiated ceasefire to the deal that include freedom of operation for Israel to block Hezbollah from ever receding along the border with Israel and pushing all Hezbollah forces physically north of the Litani River in some areas like the city of Metula, much further than than the Litani River further north, away from Israel.
So, Karen, it looks like the U.S., the Biden administration, I should say, I want to differentiate because I don't think it represents all of America. They're scrambling to try to negotiate a resolution here. But as I said in the open, I would think that the trust for the U.S. is somewhat diminished even further after events this weekend where a U.S. top-secret document kind of detailing Israeli preparations for a retaliatory strike against Iran was leaked.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, I don't think there's much chance of a ceasefire because Iran has taken direct control over Hezbollah, and they're not interested in a ceasefire. They need Hezbollah to keep shooting at Israel. So there's not going to be any sort of an agreement reached. But be that as it may, your question is correct. I think that the United States' stock has gone down pretty significantly in terms of the way that Israel views it, not only because of the intelligence breach, which was stunning, where you had the National Geospatial Institute's information about what they're spying on Israeli air bases and other strategic assets in Israel being leaked to a Telegram page that has links to the Iranian regime. And then, of course, it immediately became public knowledge about the types of aircraft that Israel is using to train for the mission, what sort of bombs or actually air-launched ballistic missiles they claim that Israel is training to launch against Iran. So there's a lot of information there in these leaked documents, top secret documents, that is based on American espionage against Israel.
Well, let me ask you this question. I'm going to put this in the form of a question. Based on the recent events, I mean, Israel has experienced some tremendous breakthroughs in the last few weeks in taking out the leadership of Hamas and Hezbollah. What's the sense there in Israel? I mean, I would think that the momentum is building to go ahead and finish this off, but what's the sense there on the ground?
There's a sense of optimism. There's a sense, a little bit of growing frustration. When are we going to be attacking Iran already? I think you could say that the impatience is growing, but I think that seems to be something that's in the works to happen pretty quickly
So
from
let me
news from today.
So there is support for the Israeli Defense Forces to move out and strike Iran, the head of the snake.
There's an expectation and a demand. I mean, I don't think that there's anybody in Israel, or very few people in Israel, are deluding themselves into thinking that there's some sort of a deal to reach with Iran when they're on the cusp of a nuclear arsenal. So, absolutely, there's a sense. I think the main concern that you hear today in Israel is not what Israel has to do, but how the United States is working under the Biden-Harris administration to subvert all of Israel's war aims. And it's not just the leaked top secret information about Israel's preparations for the attack in Iran. It's also that the United States last week it sent a letter threatening an arms embargo against Israel if we work to secure our war aims, and even if the Knesset passes legislation to outlaw UNRWA, the UN agency that has been shown over the past year to simply be a auxiliary force to Hezbollah, that its members are Hamas members.
You talk about the agency that helped stock Sinwar's bunker with
exactly,
supplies?
And also precisely that one, the same one that he was receiving all the supplies from, that the United States has been demanding, the Biden administration has been demanding that Israel allow more and more and more of this UNRWA aid controlled by Hamas into Hamas regime areas of Gaza to supply Hamas. And the United States has been saying that if Israel takes any action against UNRWA, which has been exposed as a terrorist organization over the past year, its members have held Israeli hostages. They killed Israelis. They took them hostage on October 7th. They've been massively exposed as, Hamas headquarters are in UNRWA's headquarters. So they're just overlapping organizations. And the United States said that they were going to place an arms embargo against Israel if Israel outlaws UNRWA's operations in its territory. So this is really shocking. So the United States is openly now, under Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Secretary of State Tony Blinken, who's coming to Israel and meeting with the Prime Minister tomorrow, they're threatening an arms embargo against Israel if we continue to act to secure our war goals, whether that's in Lebanon or in Gaza or in Iran. And so I think the main thing that's troubling Israelis is the open hostility that the Biden administration and that Kamala Harris specifically are exhibiting really on a daily basis, both through formal action and through statements on behalf of Israel's enemies and against Israel.
God have mercy on the United States, given what this administration has been doing as it pertains to Israel. We're in an election. We're 2 weeks out from an election. I would have to think, Carolyn, that factors into a retaliatory strike against Iran. Can we anticipate seeing something soon?
Yes, I mean, I think it's already been reported that Israel intends to attack Iran before November 5th because, the fear here, or really the expectation here, if you want to know the truth of the matter, is that once the Biden-Harris team is no longer burdened by the need to pay lip service to being supportive of Israel, that they're just going to use the 2.5 months between the election and the inauguration of the next president, whomever it is, to massively escalate their actions, their hostile actions against Israel, whether that's with weapons embargoes or UN Security Council resolutions condemning Israel and other actions that they can take. The International Criminal Court, their 3-judge panel is meeting this week to determine whether or not to issue arrest warrants against Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Gallant. So all of these things are happening with a nod, nod, wink, wink at a minimum by the Biden-Harris administration. And so Israel understands that even though the United States is actively intruding and trying to undermine our operations in all theaters today, that whatever pressure is being brought to bear against Israel today is going to just get exponentially raised beginning on November 6th.
Carolyn, how extensive do you think the retaliatory strike against Iran will be?
Well, I think I don't know what form it's going to take. I mean, there are a lot of ways to look at Iran, whether it's through airstrikes or other actions on the ground, um, or remote actions. I mean, there are a lot of different ways to skin a cat, and there are a lot of different ways to attack Iran. It's a very, very difficult target because it's not a little kitty cat. And so, we're going to have to see. But the announced intention of Israel is to carry out an extensive assault against Iran in retaliation, not only for attacking Israel with 200 ballistic missiles on October 1st, but also for the most recent drone attack that hit Prime Minister Netanyahu's private residence.
Do you think this attack will be designed to diminish their capabilities or simply just to respond?
It's not just going to be a response because, I mean, I think Prime Minister Netanyahu said recently, and I think he reiterated in a statement where he was quoting his late father, the historian Benzio Netanyahu, earlier today, that what Israel is thinking about now is overthrowing the regime. So I don't think that this is going to be a strike, just a demonstration of capabilities. I think that Israel's goal here, in terms of how do we get the most bang for our buck, or whatever, is that the targets that are going to be hit, whatever they are going to be significant to the regime, significant from Iran's strategic perspective in the region, and that their purpose, among others, is going to be to destabilize and weaken the regime's grip on power in Iran.
That would be in keeping with the comments he made a couple, 2 or 3 weeks ago, directly to the Iranian people, saying, "Our beef is not you. We look forward to a day when the people of Iran and Israel live together in peace."
Yes, and that sentiment is shared by millions and millions of Iranians, and it is true. It's harder for Israel to make a separation between the Palestinians and the regime, since they democratically elected Hamas, and because the Palestinian Authority, which is supposed to be moderate, is actually just exactly like Hamas and everything related to Israel and its desire to annihilate Israel. The same is true in Lebanon, where you don't really see a distinction between the Lebanese regime and Hezbollah, because Hezbollah just swallowed Lebanon whole and controls all aspects of life there. But there's a difference with Iran, because the people of Iran have been in near continuous revolt against the regime that so harshly oppresses them for well over a decade and a half. And they've made very clear in every way possible, including with their, by giving their lives for the sake of to try to bring down this regime, that they really share Israel's interest in overthrowing the regime. So I think that Israel has a partner in the Iranian people. I think the Israeli people see that, and I think the Iranian people desire a rebuilding of ties that existed and were very strong between Iran and Israel before the 1979 Islamic Revolution.
I think that's true. We see that on many fronts. Carolyn Glick, always great to see you. Thanks for joining us. I know it's late there in Israel. Thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.